Hello and welcome to my video blog in which I will document my journey in game development, and I will be building a 2D game engine and a few games. First of the games will be Arkanoid, which is basically like squash, but you have to break these tiles. Um, I've been inspired from a list of games which kind of you can earn your wings into game development. So this is not the first game of the list, but the previous ones I think are kind of too boring for me, or at least I'm not that excited to build them. Although tic-tac-toe has, uh, you know, can be really difficult, especially when you implement BDBugs algorithm for the AI opponent. But without further ado, let's look at what is the state of my project now. So I went with CMake, and I'm working on Windows operating system and using Visual Studio compiler and Visual Studio for building and running my game. We So first a bit of history. So why I decided to start this new project from scratch. So I have this previous project which became a mess. So here I have around 30 classes, and at the end, when this the game logic, and it got really messy, and uh, when I stumbled upon some problems, it turned out that I cannot actually continue with the current setup. It will need too big of refactoring. So that's why I decided to create a new project, and this time, this time around, I will write tests for almost everything. Just for fun, I will write tests for everything which is not like SDL related. So I will be using SDL2 as a graphics API. And yeah, my idea with this new project is to make it cross-platform, to have really good test coverage, and to figure out things before actually building them. Because in the previous project, like, I tried to do an ad hoc approach in which when I stumble across a problem, I resolve it. But it that's a dangerous path, because you can tangle yourself really badly, and you basically cannot continue. Especially without tests, it's hard to make changes and do refactorings. Um, and for this new project, my idea is to keep it simple and use data structures which are memory friendly. Something, vector as much as possible, and um, also the idea is to make it at least runnable on Windows and Linux. So let's look at what's the state now. So let me run it. I'll just run it, and it will. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but window flashed here and disappeared, and that's okay. I mean, there were no errors, so I think that's a success. Uh, I will show you what I have now, starting with the main CPP. So here I'm basically initializing the video. I decided to create a class that will initiate all the subsystems of SDL like video, audio, fonts, etc. And I decided to have methods which are like commands, something like commands. So I say require video, and it sets, the implementation is here, it sets a flag internally on the class, and then it returns the class itself, so I can chain the calls. There will be additional methods here. There will be like audio and so on, fonts. And here, when you call init, the actual initiation of the subsystems happens. So basically here we will have another flag for audio and so on, and it uses the OR operator, bitwise operator, to basically create one unsigned integer with all the values, like mask with all the values. That's how SDL works, and in many places of SDL API this approach is used. And here in the destructor we quit the SDL system, and that's the idea of the class. It will handle the life cycle of the SDL system. So okay, another class that I created is for reporting errors. It's not doing much, but the idea is not to use SDL directly here in main. So we want to create wrappers around SDL, so that my idea in the future is to have another implementation of the graphics API, which will be OpenGL. And in theory, I should be able to easily switch SDL to OpenGL, and everything else should work in terms of like engine, game engine, and loading sprites and images and so on. So let's see. I have a class for window. It's managing the life cycle of the window instance, and it's not doing much. As you can see, the previous project, the window class was really large and it had all kinds of methods, but I didn't need them, so I just keep it to the minimum API. And also I ditched exceptions, so here you can see that I'm using exceptions, but that was so. First of all, it's kind of an overkill to have these classes. Also, it requires, of course, catching the exceptions and logging. So I will try it with having codes. Like status codes returned from the methods instead. Let's see how it goes with that, whether it will be too messy again, like exceptions. I'm not worrying much about performance with exceptions, because exceptions are just for the initiation of SDL subsystems. And I will not use exceptions for like game logic or anything that happens during gameplay. So let's look at the CMake configuration. I think that's the most interesting part in the project so far. So in the beginning we have a few like these are just standard stuff. Here I list my files which the project uses. Here here I have to state that make that statement because otherwise the files that I import, for example here, will not be visible. And next is the libraries that I use. So for this project it's different than my previous one. In my previous one I used the dynamic linking, and I expected SDL to be on the system somewhere, and I had to have these CMake files that find the libraries in your file system. And it was really so. For example, if I decide to distribute this game, I'll have to make my users install SDL somewhere, and it's really, I don't think that's really user friendly. And so that's why I decided to statically link the libraries, and they are right beside the the project files. Here they are, and I doubt that I will change the versions of the libraries, so they probably work just fine for the case, simple cases that I'm going to build, like these games. It's not like some really funky or modern stuff. So yeah, I think it will work. So here I declare which folders contain the header files for the libraries, and here I have linked just one library, and I did it with target link libraries because in this way you get a pretty nice side effect, which is that Visual Studio. So CMake configures the project in such a way that the resulting Visual Studio files here in build, they have information about the linked libraries, so they're automatically added to additional dependencies, and I don't have to touch anything here, because that will mean that if I decide to develop on my other laptop, I'll have to do the same setup, so it's not repeatable. And for now I just link one of the libraries, which is SDL2, which is the main library concerned with the Windows and the general stuff, the big stuff. So this line here is really important. This line basically it copies the DDL for this library to the current, so it says it, the current binary directory. So depending on whether you're building for release or debug or anything else, it will put the DLL beside the exe. So in that way, yeah, that's basically required for the program to run. It requires that DLL to be beside the binary, the executable. Alright, so I think there's nothing much. So I will work on running this thing in Linux. I expect there to be problems because so I said that the library is here beside the files, but this is actually a library built for Windows with the Visual Studio compiler, so it will not work on Linux. I will have to have some kind of, no, I'm not sure yet how it's going to be, but I will have to have some different here. I will have to link another library to the project. It will be a conditional statement here in CMake. So yeah, that's it, and I will make some progress on this game, and I will create a new video once I have something new. Yeah, that's it. Bye.